Welcome back to MPB's Boot Camp for Algebra 1. We are getting ready for those end-of-year tests or end-of-year exams. So let's go ahead and look at Lesson 2. It's equations, and this is our standards for those equations that we have gone through. We need to remember the difference between expressions and equations. So let's look at some MAAP questions and in-depth questions to get ready for those end-of-year tests. Remember, the power of studying always helps. Using the appropriate property of equality, which one of the following is a valid next step for solving the equation 7x plus 20 equals 4 minus x? So we're looking at this equation. 7x plus 20 equals 4 minus x. And our first thing that we always want to do is get like terms together. So if I get my numbers together first, let's see what that would look like. I would subtract 4 on both sides. I have 7x plus 16 equals a negative x. Do I have anything that looks like that? I do not. So then let's look at a different way. Making sure that we are looking at all possible ways of solving this. So what happens maybe if we put our variables together first? So let's go ahead and try that. 7x plus 20 equals 4 minus x. So now let's add an x to both sides to get those variables together. I have 8x plus 20 equals 4. Do I have that step? And yes, I do. So we need to make sure that we understand there's multiple ways of starting our equations. We can get our numbers together first, or we can get our variables together first. So you always want to try it both ways to see which step it's asking for. Good job. Let's look at the next one. Which statement describes a correct series of steps to solve the equation below? 10 equals the fraction 4 times x minus 5 divided by 3. Well, the first thing I would do is what? Multiply the 3 on both sides, divide both sides by 4, and then subtract 20 from both sides. Well, let's see. I really don't see how I could do that, or do we? If I distributed 10 equals 4x minus 20 divided by 3. So for me to subtract 20, that would mean that would have to be a positive, and that's not the case. So I know 1 is not my answer. All right, so let's go to the next one. That's not the answer. It says divide both sides by 3, multiply both sides by 4, then add a negative 5. Remember, when we add a negative, that's just like subtraction. So if I add the negative 5, which is subtraction, and I already have it as a subtraction, then it won't cancel out on the right side to go to the left, so I know that's not my answer. Number 3 says multiply by 3 on both sides, divide both sides by 4, and then subtract 5 again. If I multiply on both sides by 3 and I get 30, I divide by 4, so I'd have 30 over 4 equals x minus 5, and then subtract, I'm still not canceling that 5 out. So obviously 3 is not my answer. So let's look at this last one. I'm dividing by 4/3. So if I divide by 4/3, and then I add my 5 on both sides, that x would be by itself. So my answer is going to be option number 4. Good job. Make sure you know your opposite operations to solve these equations, which is a good thing to always remember. To isolate those variables, you always want to do opposite operation or inverse operation, if you will. So here we go. For the given equation, 2x plus 7 equals 3y plus 1, what is the value of y when x equals 9? So I'm going to substitute some in. So let's see. 2 times 9 plus 7 equals 3y plus 1. So let's go ahead and isolate that variable. So I've got 18 plus 7 equals 3y plus 1. Putting like terms together, 25 equals 3y plus 1. Subtracting 1, so I have 24 equals 3y division. So my y equals 8. Good job. Solve the linear equation 6x minus 11 equals 2 plus 5 times x minus 3 for x. So first thing I'm going to do is distribute. So let me get a different color since we have 2 on this slide. Let's go with green. Here we go. So I've got 6x minus 11 equals 2 plus, and I am distributing, 5x minus 15. We always want to get our like terms together. So I'm going to have 6x minus 11 equals, this and this can come together, negative 13 plus 5x. Let's get our like terms together. So I'm going to subtract 5x on both sides. So I have x. I'm going to add 11 on both sides. So x equals negative 2. Make sure that you are looking at how we get those variables by itself. Make sure that you're using opposite operation to go from one side of the equation to the other side of the equation. Good job. All right, here we go. Zeros. How to find real zeros of polynomials. What are the zeros of the factored polynomial function written below? H of y equals 3y minus 1 times y plus 5 squared times 2y plus 3. The best way for us to do this is our Desmos skill. That is the best way for us to work this problem. So as you pull up Desmos, you're going to plug this function in. And since Desmos uses x and y, we would write it as y equals 3x minus 1, x plus 5 squared, 2x plus 3. We plug that into our Desmos. Then I see every time that that graph touches or crosses my x-axis, and that's my 0 because I have my number and 0. Y equals 0, that's what my zeros are. So when I look at my Desmos, where I have graphed this, which one do I see graphs across or touching the x-axis? Negative 5, I think it's negative 1.5, which is also negative 3 over 2, and positive 1/3. That is where my line crosses or touches my x-axis. Good job. Select the box or boxes that correctly identify the zeros of each polynomial. So I have 4 different expressions, and I need to know the identification of the zeros. So let's go ahead and plug these into our Desmos. So I'm going to pull Desmos up for this one since we have multiple. And I'm going to put in my first one, which is x squared minus 4. I have negative 2 and positive 2. So those are the 2 boxes that I would check. Our next one is x squared minus x minus 6. I have negative 2 and positive 3. So there's the 2 boxes that I would check. Let's try the next one. I have x squared plus 3x. I have negative 3 and 0. So those are the 2 boxes I would check. And then the last one, I have x squared minus 6x plus 9. We only touch at a positive 3, so I'm only going to have one answer for that last one. Good job. So our answers would look something similar to this. That's what your boxes should look like. Good use of that Desmos skill. Points on the line. Which 2 points lie on the graph of the equation 2x plus 3y equals 6? Again, this is a Desmos skill. So let's go ahead and pull up Desmos. I'm going to plug in this equation and see what my points are that lie on it. Now, I do not have to put this in y equals mx plus b form because Desmos will take it in standard form. So let's go ahead and plug that in and see what it looks like. So I have 2x plus 3y equals 6. Now I have a wonderful opportunity to use another skill that Desmos does. I can put 3, 0 and label. It does lie on the line. So let's do the next one. In parentheses, I'm going to put 0, 3 and label. It does not, so I'm going to go ahead and take that one off. Let's do our next one. Parentheses, 3, 4 and label. It does not, so let's go ahead and take that one off. Our next one is 3, -2 and label. It does not. So let's try that last one. Parentheses, -3, 4 and label. It does. So then our answers are going to look like this one and that one. And that is how you use that Desmos skill of trying to find lines that are graphed on Desmos or on your calculator and which line will, or which numbers are those coordinates. Another way we can do this is take the x and y value and plug it into our equation and see which one of it will give us 6. So 3 for x, 0 for y would give us 6. -3 and 4 would give us 6. So you want to make sure that you understand you can plug it in or you can graph it. Good job. Dessert time. Lisa sells pies and cupcakes. She sells pies for $8 and cupcakes for $11. Her goal is to sell a total of 200 cupcakes and pies next month. If P is the number of pies Lisa sells and C is the number of cupcakes that she sells, which of the following linear equations correctly models Lisa's goal? Now, this is a big, big phrase. It tells us how we're going to work this problem. So let's go back and annotate this question for a minute. It says that her pies sell for $8. Her cupcakes sell for $11. Her goal is to sell 200 cupcakes and pies. It does not say anything whatsoever about money. So I'm just looking at numbers of items sold. So for my cupcakes, I have C. For my pies, I have P. When I add them together to get my goal, I want it to be 200. So which one would be our answer? Obviously, number 1. That's a wonderful way and a wonderful example of why it's so important to annotate these questions. Good job, guys. I want to thank you for coming to work with us at Boot Camp for MPB, and as always, have a great day.